So this is our first video for integration of multivariable functions. And our goal today will be to find the volume of a solid that's bounded by a surface, z equals f of xy, and a region on the xy plane. And you can see here I've drawn a little diagram of a surface in space. So this is our z equals f of xy. And we want to find the volume of the region that's bounded by our surface and a region in the plane. Let's call that region R. Right? So we want to find the volume of the piece of space that I'm pointing to. And we're going to do what we do with integration. We're first going to break up into small pieces, and we will actually be finding volumes of little rectangular prisms, right? So they're going to look something like this. They're going to be rectangular, so we obviously will be making an error, but then we're going to take a limiting value or take a limit as the number of pieces in our partition get small. The number gets very large and the area of those pieces gets arbitrarily small. So we're going to use our understanding of integration to find the volume between a surface and a region on the xy plane. So first, let's talk about our region. We're going to start with rectangular regions. And so here you can see that I've drawn a rectangular region. Let's call that R. And we can denote R as the set of points on the plane xy such that x is between a and b and y is between c and d. And you can see those labeled on the axes in yellow. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to partition our region. That will be our first step. We will then order the pieces in some way, but we're going to sample a point within each partition. And then we're going to find the height at that point of the prism using our function and write an expression for the volume of one prism, and then we will add them all up and take a limit. So very much like we find areas between a curve and the x-axis, but this time we're thinking about volume. So here is our xy plane and our rectangular region, and I'm going to subdivide this. For now, we'll just say they're equally spaced intervals. Let's subdivide the interval from A to B just as an example into 3 pieces, and the interval from C to D into 2 pieces. So we are forming a grid from our region, and I'm going to label each rectangle in our grid with 2 numbers. One will be the number along the x-axis. So this is rectangle number 1 along the x-axis, but it's also 1 along the y. This one is rectangle number 2 if I move another unit along my x-axis, but still 1 along the y, and rectangle 3 along the x and 1 along the y. This next one above 1, 1 will be still 1 along the x, but 2 along the y. This is going to be rectangle 2, 2, and rectangle 3, 2. Just a systematic way of keeping track of our numbers, of our rectangles. And in each one, so we have created a partition. In each rectangle that we have within our partition, I'm going to pick a sample point. So a point here, point here, point here, point here, point here, and point here. And I'm also going to specify a few things. So let's suppose that we break up the interval along the x-axis into m subintervals. In general. And then the width of each of these subintervals, we're going to call this delta x, and that's going to be b minus a, the length of the interval, divided by the number of pieces I'm breaking it up into. And we're going to take our interval along the y-axis from c to d, and we break it up into n subintervals. And the width of each of these, we'll call that a delta y, and this will be d minus c divided by n. Okay, now for each point, each sample point in each rectangle, we'll denote with a subscript ij, where I is the ith subinterval along the x-axis, and j is the jth subinterval along the y-axis. And then we will find the height, right? So we've partitioned our region, we found a sample point. Now at each sample point, we take the height from that point to our surface. So this is going to be our function value at xij, yi sub j. So here's our little rectangular prism. It's going to look something like this for my ijth piece. And this height is the function value at whatever point, right? So our surface is up here, and I'm using as my height my function value. And the area of the little rectangle will be a little change in x times a little change in y. So now we have an expression for the volume of one of these little tiny prisms. So for one prism, our volume will be, let's say it will just be the area of the base, so delta x, delta y, times the height f of x sub ij, y sub ij. And now what we want to do is we want to add this up, again in a systematic way, all of the prisms that we formed from our partition. So we have found the height at a sample point and the volume of one prism, and now our work is to form a Riemann sum and add things up. So let's do this also in a systematic way. Let's suppose we start along the x-axis. So for I equal to 1, along the x-axis, we're going to add up. We're going to find the volume of each box as we move vertically. So in our picture of box 1, 1 and box 1, 2. We'll do the same thing for I equal to 2. For I equal to 2, again along our x-axis, we then move along the y and find the volume of our boxes. 2, 1 and 2, 2. And we continue in this way. In our diagram, we would just do one more. For I equals 3, we find the volume of box 3, 1 and 3, 2. Now, we're going to write this as two summations. So our volume of the entire, of the area of the volume between our surface and the region on the xy plane can be approximated by, let's see. So first, we're going to keep track of our I index. That will go from 1 to m along the x-axis. And for each of these, we add up the volumes of the boxes as we count upward along the y. So that will take us from j equals 1 to n, right? So, and that's going to be the height of each prism times our little area component, delta y, delta x. Order doesn't really matter here, how I do this, which summation I do first, but notice what's happening here is that when I is 1, we add up from j equals 1 to j equals n, all of the rectangles along the y-axis. And then we increase I to 2, and we do the same thing. And then we increase I to 3, and we do the same thing until we have found the volume of each prism in our partition. Okay, so we are ready to define a double integral. So we're going to let, I'm going to do this in green, we're going to let a little delta A, we're going to call this our area element, and this represents the area of a tiny rectangle on the xy plane. We can represent it by delta y times delta x or delta x times delta y, doesn't matter. And so our volume, when we want the exact volume, we're going to take the limit. As the areas of these rectangles approach 0 of this double Riemann sum, from I equals 1 to m, from j equals 1 to n, and of the volume of one of the rectangular prisms, f of xij, yij, and then we can write delta y, delta x, which is our little area element. And we could also say, another way to do this is, or as m approaches infinity, the number of subdivisions along the x-axis, and n approaches infinity, the number of subdivisions along the y-axis. And this is going to give us something that we call a double integral. So our double integral will find the volume, the exact volume, that is the limit of this double sum as we add up the volumes of the infinitesimally thin rectangular prisms. And so we'll write this as two integrals, each one represents one of the sums over our region of f of xy, our function value gives us the height, times dA, because our delta A, as it gets infinitesimally small, is our differential of area. And with our partition that we had before, we can say, well, that's going to be the same as the integral from a to b, integral from c to d, of f of xy dy dx. This is also our area element here, our area differential. This represents dA. And a couple of things to notice here. The inside integral, c and d, corresponds to the first differential that we're using. So this c and d corresponds to the limits of y, and the second differential that we're using can be mapped to the limits of integration of x here. Okay, so in the next video we're going to talk about, well, how do we evaluate these double integrals? And we're going to talk about the slicing method and start with and Fubini's theorem. Once we've done that, we'll be able to do some actual examples.